As part of the 5-hour battle that faced General Alexander M. McCook and the 13,000 troops with him, we will cover the events at Open Knob. This would be one of the first actual defeats of the Union troops at Perryville, Kentucky. We will take a look at what happened and why McCook's men were defeated at Open Knob. All aboard the Kentucky-Tennessee Living Time Machine. Please fasten your seatbelts and keep your arms and legs inside of the vehicle at all times. But to get going, we need your help. We still need to fire up that time machine to transport us. Please help us by clicking on the like, subscribe, and bell notification buttons down below. Not only does this fire up the time machine for our flight back in time, but it convinces the YouTube algorithm that we need a bigger vehicle to reach more people who love history as much as you do. Now, back to our story. General Bragg's misidentification. As we have discussed with the battles of Peters Hill and Doctors Creek, the Union forces did have skirmishes with the Confederate forces. These battles did not last long, as neither of the field commanders wanted to engage in a full-blown battle against the other side. General Braxton Bragg was miffed at the letter that Major General Leonidas Polk had sent to him, and now was on horseback making his way to Perryville from Harrodsburg. He arrived at 10 a.m. to establish his headquarters at the Crawford House on Harrodsburg Pike. Bragg inspected the conditions of the Confederate troops and the battle lines and was flabbergasted. The flanks were not properly anchored, and the battle line itself had gaps. To make matters worse, on his way to Polk, Bragg had spotted and misidentified McCook's troops, who were on the north side of Perryville. He thought that they were the 3rd Corps who had skirmished against the Confederate forces earlier that morning. The 2nd Corps had arrived by noon to join with Buell and the 3rd Corps. General Alexander M. McCook had 13,000 troops with him. Bragg then shifted 3 divisions of his men to attack McCook's corps. Bragg had no knowledge of Crittenden 2nd Corps approaching from Lebanon Pike. The new Confederate lineup. Bragg gave orders to realign the Confederate troops into north-south line in parallel rows, with the end of each row projecting further than the one in front. The right wing, under the command of Major General Benjamin F. Cheatham, marched north from town and prepared to open the attack on the Union left, which began the left wheel movement. Cheatham's men were marching north at double-quick time and stirred up enough dust that it confused the Union troops into thinking that the Confederate army was in retreat. The Union center line would be struck by 2 brigades from Brigadier General J. Patton Anderson's division. And then the Union right flank would be attacked by Major General Simon B. Buckner's division. A 3rd division from the Patton Anderson's forces was commanded by Colonel Samuel Powell. Powell was ordered to attack the Union troops farther south at Springfield Pike. The position of the Union Army. Buell had McCook's 1st Corps positioned on the left from Benton Road to McVille Road. Gilbert's 2nd Corps was positioned in the center on Springfield Pike. Crittenden's 2nd Corps was positioned on the right along Lebanon Pike. There were 2 things that was working against the Union Army in this conflict. Due to the acoustics of the area, Buell could not hear the battle, and his men were fighting 2 miles away from him. The majority of Buell's Federal forces are still under the orders not to engage Bragg until the next day. So, in fact, Buell did not know that there was a battle going on. It was not until later on October 8th that any reserve troops were sent to McCook as reinforcements. The Confederate attack begins. By that afternoon, the Confederate Army had opened up and was now attacking McCook's corps. The first volley came at 12:30 p.m. with Cheatham's artillery bombardment. However, Cheatham did not order his infantrymen forward during the attack. The Union troops extended their flank to the north beyond where they wanted to attack their enemy. Bragg saw the Union line being thinned out and moved Cheatham's division to Walker's Bend to attack this opening. The Confederate scouts had left the area of Open Knob too early. McCook had placed Lieutenant Charles Parsons and the brigade of Brigadier General William R. Terrell onto Open Knob with the artillery battery to cover this opening. At 2 p.m., Brigadier General Daniel S. Donaldson's brigade was the first to cross Chaplin River and climb the West Bank bluffs. 3 regiments were ready for an attack, with the other 2 regiments detached as reserves. Instead of finding a thin line of Union soldiers to attack, the Donaldson line faced the center of the Union forces. Colonel John H. Savage of the 16th Tennessee Infantry took his forces ahead of the other 2 engaged regiments and attempted to reach the artillery battle of Captain Samuel J. Harris. As the troops moved west into a depression in the ground, they found themselves in heavy crossfire from the 33rd Ohio Infantry and the 8th Artillery guns of Parsons at Open Knob. Cheatham ordered Brigadier General George E. Manny's brigade to deal with Parsons' artillery, but they could not withstand the fire and withdrew from the battle back to their starting point by 2:30 p.m. In this move, Savage would lose 219 of his 370 men. The defeat of Parsons. Lieutenant Charles Parsons had a huge problem with his men. First, the majority of his men were inexperienced, some of whom came from the 105th Ohio Infantry. Brigadier General William R. Terrell's 33rd Brigade was posted to defend the artillery guns. Unknown to Parsons or Terrell, Confederate Brigadier General George Manny's brigade was able to sneak through the woods to Open Knob without detection because both commanders' attention was drawn to Donaldson's attack. It took a while, but eventually the fighting was redirected toward Manny and his brigade, and a deadly firefight commenced. Brigadier General Jackson of the 10th Division was killed in a firefight, leaving Terrell in charge. It is unclear if Terrell was inexperienced himself as commander, but he made one of the most epic mistakes during the battle. Terrell immediately ordered 770 raw troops of the 123rd Illinois to mount a bayonet charge down the hill towards the 1,800 veteran troops of the Confederate Army. This was a disaster, as the 123rd Illinois suffered heavy losses. Colonel Theophilus T. Garrett and the 80th Illinois, with a detachment of infantry, arrived to stalemate the Confederate troops. But this stalemate did not last long. Manny's artillery was commanded by Lieutenant William Turner, and he began pounding the inexperienced Union troops, with Manning ordering a charge up the steep hill. This action quickly defeated the Union troops, and most of Parsons' guns were captured. Parsons did not take this defeat well, and he had to be physically dragged off the hill and away from the fighting by his retreating men. Thank you. Kentucky Tennessee Living would like to thank you for watching our video series on the Appalachian Civil War battles. Don't forget to hit that like button, as the more likes we receive, the more likely YouTube is to suggest our videos to other viewers. Also, to receive notice when we upload a new video, be sure to subscribe and click the bell notification button. Please double check to make sure that you are subscribed, as some of our viewers are still finding that they are no longer subscribed to our channel. We thank you for continuing to support Kentucky Tennessee Living as we are discovering the mysteries in Appalachian history.